This is a recording of Jeffrey Eisen and I. We are a spiritual couple, I would say. I was thinking about that the other day. Like you're the other half of me, Jeffrey, is the way I see it, in the kind of nicest possible way. Not in kind, like you're kind of, yeah, you're the yin to my yang and the yang to my yin is how I experience our relationship. And I figured I wanted to record this conversation because I figure we're going to discuss some really salient stuff that's going to appeal to a lot of people. So we were just discussing the fact the energy has changed this in the last day or so, would you say, Jeffrey?
Yes, one of the things that I find is that just before a moon cycle, like it doesn't have to be on the full moon. It seems to be it seems to start a few days ahead, and it seems to shift a few days ahead, and that would make sense. It may not be the case for everyone. I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and as well as you. So, but I always know when something shifts in me, I always check, the moon calendars, or the universe will tell me that there's a solar flare or something else going on. And this week was relatively intense. I'm relatively proud of myself of how I handled it because it is important. I've learned from Shaltazar, it's really important to be okay with the tunnel of darkness. And you and I have chatted a few times this week, and we even did an oracle card reading yesterday, and it was really great because I was scattered, although you were so kind and said no, I wasn't. I know I was scattered, and that's because when I'm in this tunnel of darkness, I kind of lose my footing. I kind of lose who I am. I'm so reliant on that connection to the unseen world. When it's not there, it's like I'm treading water, not quite drowning. Sometimes go go below the water a little bit, but then come back up. And one of the things I know is that I don't see what's happening. I'm kind of fortunate, and share with me whether you agree with this. But when things are in the flow, the world around me is sending me messages from the universe. You just see it and you notice it, and it's like, oh yeah, oh look at that. I read this, or I heard this, or someone said that. But when we're in that darker place, it's like we don't get those messages. We don't get those messages. Yesterday, we did that card reading, and you were explaining about the workman and putting in the fiber and whatever. Well, that's the universe sending us messages, but we don't tend to get it as much when we're in that lower and slower energy, and that would make sense, wouldn't it? Right?
Yeah, and I mean, you even called it the tunnel of darkness, and it is
Yeah.
darkness because you can't, it's so visceral and you can't, it's like, for me, when you say that, I think of the fact that it feels like you're really in your humanness, and you're calling it lower and slower vibration, but that would be the lower chakras, wouldn't it? That would be the root, that would be the sacral, kind of coming up into the solar plexus. So absolutely 100%. And I think that can be some of the frustration that you feel when you're in that tunnel of darkness, because you're thinking, why can't I get out of this? Why is this so dark? You have all these, you want to save yourself, but it just seems to be really difficult to do so. And thank God we have a relationship with each other. And I think this is when we come into recognizing the power of the collective, is the fact that, finding out you're not alone, and then just finding out that it's not just you, and then it's okay. It's like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Well, that's fascinating that you say that. A couple things that come up as you were talking. I, when I'm in that tunnel of darkness, for whatever reason, the universe seems to cut me off from my clients and from my activities, and you're just sort of sitting there with an empty calendar. And I think that's part of it. I listen to the darkness. I forget the exact title of the oracle card, and there was a line in there that really hit me that I never realized before, that when we're in that tunnel of darkness, we are supposed to be resting. And so, of course, everything pulls back. But yesterday, I started to talk to a few people, and my stomach was upset, and I had diarrhea, and the other person said I did too. And right away, it's like, oh, okay, it's not me. It's not me, right? It's not. I'm not. My whole physicality is not falling apart. Or if you had the sniffles and someone else had the sniffles, or I haven't been sleeping well, and then a few other people say I haven't been sleeping well, then all of a sudden you feel a little bit better. You realize that, oh, it's not me, it's the energy. I get it. But when you're in that tunnel of darkness, you are somewhat isolated. And that was a term that came to me in one of the Shaltazar channelings that I still refer to, that tunnel of darkness where things are cut off. And it's kind of neat because this is the third time that we've chatted this week, and I loved it and enjoyed it. And that's because we are part of this soul family or this soul connection. Um, and each time we've chatted, the energy is a little bit different. And I think in one of the Sheltazar messages, it says when that faint light of day starts to, when you're getting to the end of the tunnel of darkness and you see those rays of light, those rays of hope, that's what I'm feeling today, which is like, I'm out of jail. It's kind of neat. And so it's important, and you're absolutely right, that lower and slower is our humanness, and that's part of our spiritual journey, to go back into that energy. And this is important, that the majority of the planet are in most of the time. We forget that we are the privileged ones that have done this work, that have risen above the swing of the pendulum, that have moved to that higher vibration, that have activated that part in us, that spirit that has been here many times before. And I think it's important for us to, in order to be relatable as healers and light workers, it's really, really important for us to go back to that humanness, to realize what other people are going through most of the time.
That
Does
is,
that make sense?
yeah, no, that makes total sense. You're completely right. And that kind of makes it feel more comfortable because sometimes I can feel when I'm going back into that I'm just like, why am I here when I already know so much? Surely I should be beyond, beyond this. I know enough to not be here. But if you put it in that context of needing a kind of a re-soaking in the waters of life to remember kind of, and be kind of, it's like spiritual personal development training. It's like you need to go back in because you need to basically stay connected to your audience. Basically, that is ultimately what it is.
It's so fascinating. I have a community, the Wisdom Circle Learning Community, and we're going to be shifting it a little bit, and that's sort of part of me standing in my power. I sort of made it about all kinds of other light workers and other teachers, and I realized that it's not financially viable. So I'm standing in my power, and it's going to become the Shaltazar Learning Community, and it is going to be about my teachings, and so we are revamping it, and we've hired we brought someone on as a new community coordinator. We were on a team meeting yesterday, and my son Michael is helping me with the business aspect. And I highly recommend that as light workers, we realize that being doing the business of being a light worker is very different than being a light worker, because I've lived both of those lives. For 30 years, I was in business. Didn't like that part of me. Now that I am a healer and a teacher and a light worker, I don't want to go back to the business. It's sort of like that tunnel of darkness. Like when you put on your business hat, it's like, oh God, this just does not feel like what I'm here to do. So it's kind of interesting that the relationship I had with our youngest son was always very different. We co-authored a book together, Empowered Youth: A Father and Son's Journey to Conscious Living. And so now he's back in my life helping me with the business. And so this new community coordinator, Michael had challenged her to get on to the community and pretend that she's a newbie as a student of Jeffrey Eisen. and he asked her, "Well, what was your opinion?" And it sort of touched my heart because she said, "One of the things that I noticed is he's very relatable. A lot of teachers put themselves above their students, um, and with Jeffrey, and you know." It's kind of interesting. We have these chats all the time. You told me you're recording this. My energy shifts a little bit, right? And I know you know that. It's like, okay, you're talking to an audience now, not just me. And so for me, it's really important to as light workers, as spiritual teachers, as healers, that we let people know that we're human too, that we have to go through the same things. And I know when I began my journey 20 years ago, I used to put those teachers up on a pedestal and figure they had it all, that they knew it all, they had it all figured out. And that's not true. We are all human beings having this spiritual experience. And the only thing that differentiates the teachers, the healers, the light workers is just how much we've been doing.
Yeah, and how much we enjoy it. This is
Yes.
this is
Yes.
really our passion. And I often find myself attracting people that I have direct, relatable experiences in common with, which I tell them, which, when you study as a therapist, etc., you're told not to do that. But I go out of my way to do that to show people that I have lived experience of this issue and I got through it. And this is my wisdom share for you to get through it. It's not like I'm above you. It's not like I'm neutral. If you're going to tell me something really bad, I'm going to go through that journey alongside you and to guide you, to hold your hand.
I
Um,
love that. Yeah. As a
think-
matter of fact, I even joke that I tell people that I get as much out of the sessions as they do because it's for me. But then the joke is the bad news is you still have to pay me.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's a co-creation, right? The future is paved in co-creation. Do you think now
Yes.
would be a really good time to play the Darkness Oracle card just for, because you brought it up and it's so relevant because this weekend we have this full moon that you've talked about, this Rowan full moon in Virgo in a water sign. Virgo being the perfectionist, the self-critic, the fine detail, the analysis, in mutable, wise, intuitive, empathic water who doesn't want to be trapped into any kind of corralled into any kind of
Hmm.
routine, but Virgo likes
Hmm.
under the Rowan moon, the light, the bright, the cleansing. So people could make the most of this energy, need to slow down, allow emotion to come in, and not be too self-critical, but to be analytical about what's coming in. So the darkness might be a place that a lot of people are finding themselves in. So should we listen to it?
We can, but I'm on my phone, so we're gonna have to try something. I'm gonna go off screen. Let me know if you can hear this. Because yesterday I was at my desktop and it was very easy to do.
You know what, Jeffrey, I can play it from mine.
Good. By the way, I love this. Thank you. You're kind of putting me in my uncomfort zone today, and I'm really becoming aware of when that happens. Uh, my wife wanted to take a towel out of the cupboard, and she was taking it from the wrong pile, and I gave her the right one, and she said, "You are so anal, just let me take the towel that I want." And it's like, yes, you're right. And so we get on today, and you said let's record, and it's sort of like, oh, but I'm on my phone, I'm not at my desktop, and then you say let's play this, and I can't play. So thank you for that. And I'm gonna share that with everyone that's going to listen to this. Get out of your uncomfort zone. The theme that we are going through these days is let go of control and move to surrender. And that I think that's really, really important. So normally I would just be in a dither saying, well, we didn't plan this, and otherwise I would have done this and I would have done that. And you just spontaneously said, let's record this. And I have no idea if anyone's ever going to listen, and it doesn't really matter. But it's for my learning and growth to realize that what's the difference, whether you're prepared or you're not, just surrender and go with the flow.
What number is it?
Uh, See if it's 29, I think. Hang on.
Don't fight the darkness.
Yes, that's it. And that was the theme for me this week, realizing, and after we listened to it, I'll tell you the one line that really stuck out for me on that one. So yes.
Okay.
And by the way, in yesterday's card reading that we did, that point that you raised, where you made the choice sometimes when you had things to do, when you're in the tunnel of darkness, and you decided just to have a cup of tea and watch the birds peck away at the seeds. That replayed in my mind so many times, making me realize how important choosing to relax. And that's what the essence of this message. We'll talk about it after we're finished. But the essence that I got out of this message that I maybe didn't get before is that we have to honor this tunnel of darkness as a rest period, and it's important to make those choices, because so many of us try to fight through it. One of the people on my team yesterday said, "Oh, I feel so bad. I didn't get anything done this week." I said, "Much better that way, but do me a favor, let go of the guilt, and next week you will accomplish a tremendous amount." But if you wallow in that guilt that you didn't get things accomplished this week, then you're not taking advantage of the darkness, the lower and slower energy that's out there.
And what I got out of what you said yesterday was the fact that, you have to love it, but you don't have to like it. So,
Mhm.
it's not like you have to embrace your darkness and really like it and find a way to like all that hard work. You will love it, and love means accept it, really, doesn't it, in that term? So you say that's the lowest form of on the love slide, is acceptance.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to be thrilled with it, but it's like, okay. And to a certain degree, that acceptance is a surrender, right? It's like, okay, here's
Yeah,
another wasted week, right?
but
you
it's
know,
not. That's
I
regret.
know it's not. And that's what we're going to hear here. Right. And
That,
it's when we think it's wasted,
that
that the
is
problem.
That's feeling and choice. And that's
Yeah.
choosing to think it's a waste as opposed to choosing to think it was a reprieve. Right, let's listen to this because I'm worried we're not recording the thing that I want. Oh, where is it?
No, it says recording. Okay. So,
Okay, ready?
yeah, I am.
Can you hear that?
I'm ready for your beautiful voice.
Shaltazar, Oracle card number 29. Don't fight the darkness. Do not be afraid when darkness comes into your life. It is when you believe adversity can hurt you that you run away from it. You try to fight back and keep it away, but by doing so you give it more power. When you realize the darkness which comes upon you is for your highest good, you will no longer have to resist it. We are not suggesting you invite it into your life, but don't run away when it shows up. The struggles and hurdles which come into your life are always for your learning and growth. They teach you to become resilient and strong. The more you run away from the unpleasant, uncomfortable, and scary things in your life, the more power they have over you. Allow the darkness to be your refuge from the storm. Allow the darkness to cradle and comfort you so you learn you can handle anything which comes your way. The most restful sleep is in a dark room. It is the darkness of the room which allows you to fully rest and recuperate. The Source created night for purpose. When arduous and challenging things come into your life, allow them to be an opportunity to rest and re-energize before moving on with your life. Be still, rest, and surrender to the darkness. Don't be afraid. This too will pass. Conserve your energy and be ready to move forward when the darkness lifts. By fighting it, you consume much energy.
Learn to accept it. Learn to love it even if you don't like it. Know it is a part of you as you are part of the all.
Wow, Jeffrey. I mean,
Wow, Claire, that was your voice.
that you chose was just, it
Yeah.
took me to another, like, I love that kind of music. It took me on a journey to something foreign, exotic, something that feels familiar. It was just so beautiful in all of that wisdom. Oh,
Thank you. And your voice, amazing. My wife always loves to pick cards, and we hadn't for a while. And last night we were sitting on the sofa ready to watch TV. She said, "Well, maybe we should pick a card." I said, "Sure." And then she did pick one. And as soon as your voice came on, she said, "Oh, I love that voice." So I am so honored that you are the voice of Shaltazar. Um, the music is amazing. All the background music on the Wisdom of Shaltazar Oracle cards is by Narek Marze from the Music of Wisdom, and he's just brilliant. And I had so much fun choosing, and and as I heard that music at one point, it was like, wow, thank you, universe, for letting me choose that piece for that message. Um, One of the things that I want to say though, and every time you listen to these messages, I believe you go to a different level. Um, I always hesitated on this one because darkness is kind of something that is like, oh, darkness. We want to avoid darkness. But as I listened today, I got a new sense of what that darkness is. And darkness is anything that's unpleasant in our life. It's not always the worst. It's not always the dark night of the soul. It could just be a bad day. It could be a bad few hours. And I think they talk about that. They talk about adversity, unpleasantness. So I realized today that I'm getting a new perception of darkness, that it's not bad. It's not bad. And that's the shift for me, having listened to this a couple of times this week.
and what I wanted to say, what came up for me then, and what always I know, I've always loved the dark, is the fact that there is rest in that darkness. And there's other senses that come alive, and darkness is earth. So earth rules the winter months. Earth is the darkness. Earth is the mystery. Earth is the structure.
Mm.
Earth holds you and keeps you safe. It's your foundation. And so without darkness, when there's too much light, then people go a bit crazy. Whereas they need that darkness, they need that shutting down of the mind in order to be able to rest and recover and just do something else. And I think that's why people do sports and do different hobbies, is because it gets them out of their minds into a different, it shuts that the light connection down and just gets them into a different kind of place. So they get a rest, because too much light is like,
All right. It's kind of interesting. Like often in my sanctuary, the lights are on the lowest and come in and say, "Why do you like the darkness so much?" And it's kind of interesting because I like it when the lights are out. But when we talk about darkness, the way that message came through, and often in my coaching, it's sort of the bad, the evil, the what's wrong in the world. And I think it's important to get a different perception of that darkness. In the winter months when there isn't much sun, like it gets a bad rap. And I think that there's a continuum of darkness from the deep evil hatred to the resting. And I think it's important. What came to me, and again, that image of you choosing to sit with your cup of tea and watch the birds, it is our response to the darkness that will determine what comes next. If you think it's terrible, if you think it's awful, if you think it's bad, and you resist it, then of course your experience is going to be difficult and the road will be bumpy. But both of us this week, and it's so fascinating because we chatted on Tuesday to yesterday, we did an oracle card reading together. Today we're chatting again. And it's so wonderful to see how we have evolved throughout this week of tunnel of darkness. And there's no way we would have wanted to record or share our conversation on Tuesday. Certainly, I didn't want to, but today it was just brilliant. And so, reflecting on that journey through the tunnel this week together, and I guess that's what part of Soul Family is all about. It's really insightful. It's really enlightening. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, I can get through this. This too will pass, right? The rest that we had this week, like what everything in that message, just it was so brilliant that just like yesterday, the messages that you finally got me focused on, which ones we would play, suggesting that we play this today, just sort of, whether anyone listens to this or not, for me, this was just the epitome of the learning this week. So thank you.
And thank you. But what came up for me then was the fact that what we've done is we've expressed our feelings of darkness. We have owned them. We have expressed them. Neither of us has sat there and put like a smile on it and gone, oh, I'm fine. It's been letting the truth of the dark experience come out. And by
100%.
doing that, it's like we see it, and therefore we realize it's not anything to be scared of, because there's commonality, which if we'd just kept it to ourselves, we would have been walking alone. Instead, we got to walk hand in hand and go, hey, we can get through this. And that's what is so important in this kind of human experience. It's about finding a way to let it out. It's like converting the water, which is within us, the emotion, into air, energetic air. And if you let it out of the throat chakra, it goes out to be taken and carried away. So it's like it's elimination. And it's like tears are alchemy as well. And so I think there's something to be said there about talking about it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. My spin on it is that when we don't talk about it, we are resisting it. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm working on a little bit better this week, but still need a lot of work, is the natural tendency when we have feelings that are unpleasant, uncomfortable, lower and slower, dark, is there's an automatic handoff to the mind, and in my case, the obsessive mind. And if there's no one to talk to, then it's just spinning around in my mind. Even my ability to meditate this week, it's like normally 30 seconds to a minute, I'm deep. The minute I sat down to meditate, my mind was giving me everything. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? The nattering mind. And I'm realizing that is how we have trained, for me anyway, and I believe a lot of people, we've trained our beingness, that when the feelings are unpleasant, rather than going into the midst of the fire, into the midst of the darkness, hand it over to your mind to try to mitigate it.
Distraction.
And that's a terrible, terrible habit. And you're absolutely right. I think what we did this week is we felt it a bit more, even though the nattering obsessive mind was there. It was a little bit more in the background, and we did let those feelings come out. And I think that's why we're seeing the wisdom in this week so much clearer than if we just would have stayed in our obsessive mind all week.
And let them out without ego, without being worried that we would be judged for being less than, because these emotions, especially as kind of, powerful healers, is difficult, because it's like, there is a kind of a mind monkey that goes, well, you should be able to hold your stuff together. You are telling everyone that you can heal them. You can't heal everyone though, but you can heal people that are attracted for you for healing. But you're putting yourself in that position. You're putting them out there. And then look at you. You're on the floor as a stinky little mess this week. It's like, how are you going to deal with that? And it's like having the confidence to go, actually, I'm just going to own that, irrespective of the fact that looks like it's opposed to kind of what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you for that, because I have been questioning, my desire is to connect more, to be more empathic, to be more emotionally sensitive. And as I do so, and as I open up to that for myself, I'm feeling other people's energy. And, one day this week, I had about 3 or 4 sessions, and they were, dragging me back deeper into the tunnel. And I said to myself, well, maybe if you're going to become sensitive like that, you want to isolate yourself from that. Maybe you don't want to be as sensitive. And very quickly, the answer came back saying, no, I'm all in. I am all in. Yes, it's going to bring me down, but there is no other way I can fulfill my soul's purpose to be the healer and teacher that I am here to be if I'm not willing to allow myself to be taken back deeper into the tunnel because of someone else's stuff. That's just the way it is. The only way around it is for me to learn to navigate in the darkness, to get my little white cane and figure out how I'm going to, when circumstances beyond my control bring me into that place, I just have to get better at navigating it. I have to say to people, and I did, I'm not on my game this week. I apologize. My connection is not as great. It's like, Shaltazar, where are you this week? And I know they're saying, you can do this without us this week. It's part of your learning. So I think it's really important to realize there are some repercussions of that sensitivity. There are some repercussions of you becoming more empathic, energetically empathic. But for me anyway, and I know for you, it's worth it.
Oh God, it is worth it. And I was thinking of you. I've got canoes on the brain this week. You and your little canoe in the darkness, getting your person
Yeah.
behind you and kind of steering through the river of Styx. Like,
Yes, right.
popping them out the other side, popping them back in again, and you just be like the person literally in the river of Styx. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? The guy that takes the souls over to the underworld.
Yes,
It's
yes, yes. Right.
taking your
Yes.
inner darkness, and then I'm going to bring you back, but I'm not getting out of the boat. I'm going to sit in the boat. I'm going to witness. You do the journeying. I'll hold the space. You get back in the boat, and I'll take you back to safety. But
Right. And yesterday on our Oracle card reading, we talked about the flow, and we talked about, paddling upstream. And as you were saying that, it's like in the darkness, how do you know if you're going downstream or upstream? How do you know if you're going in the flow? So often you start going upstream and you don't even know you're going upstream, right? Because it's dark.
yeah, but you feel it, you intuit it. It's like because it's moving with ease. It's like
Right.
that when there's this ease that you think, oh, this is it when you're going, it's too difficult. That's the time, which I'm always saying, this is too difficult. That's the time to stop and go, okay, where's the cup of tea or hot chocolate? Where
Right.
are the birds? I'm going to sit here until something becomes clear.
100%. 100%. But think about it. It's dark. You're in the flow. Okay, you don't realize that the canoe has turned around. You're paddling upstream and you panic and you say, what's going on? The flow was there. I can't see it. You don't know that you've turned around to go upstream. So most of us do not say, okay, I'll just have a cup of tea and wait for myself to head in the flow again. We fight it. We say, okay, there's something wrong. And think about it. If one of your senses, if your sight is gone, right? If in the light you get to look at the riverbanks, you get to look at the water flow, you have a sense of perspective to know whether you're going with the flow or against the flow. Put a blindfold on, and then all of a sudden the flow's not there, but you don't know that you are going against the current. There is that sense of panic. And that's what used to happen to me when I went into the tunnel of darkness, is that sense, oh, I'm losing it. Oh, how am I ever going to get it back? And and you're so brilliant in that, instead of saying, I'll have a cup of tea, maybe wait for the light to come, maybe wait for my eyes to adjust to this darkness. Okay. We paddle fervently thinking that we can overcome the darkness. And so once again, that image in the midst of the darkness of having your cup of tea, and I love my cup of tea, in my beautiful indigenous mugs, right? There you go. Beautiful. That image of having a cup of tea and just watching Mother Nature in the midst of everything being a shitstorm around you is just, when you said it, it just resonated so strong. And I set the intention to have the courage and the determination to simply sit and rest and have my cup of tea when everything around me is beginning to crumble.
And I think for me, it's knowing that that is the moment to have the cup of tea in the middle of
Mm,
panic and everything else. It's like
mm,
the anxiety response is knowing this is the moment to just stop. And you say have the courage, it is the courage to just stop. Because my experience when I was about 15, 14, 15, I went to boarding school and I wasn't allowed out. So I basically sneaked out every night. And I went romping around the
you
country.
weren't, you weren't allowed out because they knew how powerful you were, and if they let you out, the world would not be in problems it is now. So I can understand their fear of letting someone as powerful as you out into the world.
Oh, Jeffrey, you just reminded me of my dad. The kind of thing he
Sorry
would.
to interrupt.
No,
Okay.
that was lovely. That was literally just like he was there. There was rules. We weren't allowed out, and I was like, I'm going to have my freedom anyway because I've had enough of this. I'm having a life. No one's giving me a life, so I'm having one. So I did. Long story short, I managed to get out a lot, and I used to be in the darkness all the time because I didn't have anything on me, and I used to roam around the countryside in pitch black or under the moonlight.
Mm,
And I didn't have, because I was 15, 16, I didn't have a single fear about
mm,
anything going wrong. That only kicked in when I was 18, interestingly enough. But up to that point, I was completely trusting of that darkness. And I remember just if I couldn't see it, I could sense it. So when we talk about the darkness in this context today, I like darkness personally. I feel quite safe in the dark, but probably because I was born at night, that does make a difference. Is that kind of, knowing that another sense will kick in if one is not working. It's like there's a compensation that happens. And so it's
mhm.
having a space for that compensation. And when you were talking, I was thinking of spirit over the top of us in our canoes going the wrong way when we stopped and got out our flask of tea in the dark tunnel in our little canoe. Spirit just comes down, gently blowing the boat round the right way and us going off again. It's like gently
Oh,
just
I love that.
created
Yes,
space to me. I'll come in and I'm allowed to touch
yes,
it. It can blow you back in the right direction.
right. Which I love that. I love that image of the essence of surrender. Because when we do surrender, spirit comes in with a big blow of air, a big you know putting the canoe, putting you back in flow. That's why surrender is so important. I want to go back to a point you raised, which was interesting, because I talked about the courage and determination to have the cup of tea. And what I heard you saying is, well, yes, but I need to have the awareness of it's time to have the cup of tea. And that reminds me, my first coach taught me a line that I always repeat, and that is that awareness leads to choice, and choice leads to change. And so those three things are very important. you need, I guess what I'm saying is that maybe I've been fortunate enough to work on the awareness and I see where I'm going, but it's the determination, the courage to make the choice to have the cup of tea. What I hear you saying is, well, because you have more in your life, you're at a different stage in your life, it's harder for me to have the awareness that the canoe has turned around, that we're going upstream. And so the two of us together have really brought forth that insight of awareness leads to choice, and choice leads to change. And just like there are some challenges to increase our sense of consciousness, our sense of awareness, to notice which direction the canoe is going, we also have to realize that when we come to the choice, and that's what was so interesting yesterday in our card reading, I jumped on the courage you had to have that cup of tea, and you thought nothing of it, and that's because your personal experience is like, oh great, I'm here in the darkness, no problem, I'm going to have fun. There's that sixth sense you have, whereas my personal experience is that darkness is painful, that darkness is whatever. So we're all going to have some challenges to heighten the awareness. We're going to have some challenges to heighten the courage and determination to make the choice. But of course, what we get at the end by working on those first two steps is a change in who we are, a change in how we show up. And as we change, then we can help other people with the first two steps.
And the change is the choice over reaction or response.
Yes. Oh, brilliant.
It is you that taught me that. It's response, not reaction, because there's more power in response. Response is considered. Reaction is in the moment. Reaction comes from fear. It was you, wasn't it? And response comes from
Yes, it was me, but it was a coach of mine. May she rest in peace. A beautiful woman named Elfrida Pretorius from South Africa that taught me that. And it's really, yeah, Pretorius from South Africa. It's really important to remember those moments. They're more than you think you are. If you remember a word, a phrase, a mantra that someone taught you, that is really the energy of the beyond, the energy of the unseen world, whether they're still here in physical form or they're not. That was meant to be incorporated into your beingness, into your essence. So remember those, honor those, and don't forget to share them so they can be passed on, because in this moment, just like you remembered your father, we are honoring this beautiful woman who left the planet far too soon and was a wonderful coach and instrumental in my spiritual journey. So, that's, yeah, just remember when those things pop into your mind, honor where you got them from and pass them on, because they are pieces of divine wisdom from the beyond.
They are. Now, Jeffrey and I run a coaching service together based on these oracle cards. So if that is something you're interested in coming to us for, you don't even need to know exactly what you want, because we will quickly be able to define it for you. And we're there to help guide you. So get in touch and come on board and see where we will take together. I'm going to leave it there for today with this recording. Jeffrey, is there anything else you'd like to say on this recording?
This has been fantastic, unexpected, and extremely pleasant. And I sense the beginning of many of these kind of chats. And you and I have been talking about it for a while, that there's such wisdom when we get together, that we should be sharing it. Just like those phrases, mantras that we get from someone else. It's time for us to share this for whoever wants to listen. And yes, we do oracle card readings together. We each have our own coaching services. We are light workers that are ready to stand in our power and help change the world, because it needs change.
or help find surrender to darkness and love and self-acceptance, whichever way you want to put it.
We will help you get to where you're supposed to be.